Hey, seventh graders, Mr. Allard here with another one of our flip lessons. Today we're going to be working on number 73, which is the executive branch and the judicial branch. It should already be cut out and put into your interactive notebook. And one of the big things is when you get to the jobs, make sure each of those goes into a separate box. All right, here we go. All right, so first off, the executive branch. The executive branch is going to contain our president, our vice president, and the presidential candidate. Now, the president and the vice president are going to be elected through the electoral college. However, the cabinet is going to be picked by the president. They're basically his kind of helpers, if you want to think of it that way. They're people with specific skills, specific knowledge base that are going to help the president make decisions. There are people that the president himself or herself actually chooses. However, there's nowhere in the Constitution that says the president should have a cabinet. This is just kind of a practice that the presidents have been doing ever since George Washington. A president is going to serve for 4 years. They're going to do 2 terms of office, even though for most of our history, a president could serve as many terms as they wanted. Not until President Franklin Roosevelt, who served for, I think, 4 terms, didn't complete his fifth. Uh, After that, we created a constitutional amendment that said the president can only serve for 4 terms or 8 years. The president is basically our enforcer. They're the person who makes sure the laws are being followed. So certain presidential jobs are listed below. Remember, each of these can go in its own separate box. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. All of our military decisions go through him or her. Doesn't mean the generals don't have any input or anything like that. Just means that the generals will provide the information and the president will then say, this is what we're going to do. The president negotiates treaties. However, we know from our Congress trip lesson that even though he can or she can negotiate treaties, it's up for the Senate in our Congress to actually support those treaties. And the president can veto bills sent to him or her from Congress, which means even though a bill passes Congress and passes both houses of Congress, it can be vetoed by the president or canceled. Um, Presidential jobs. The president can nominate political officials, so judges, ambassadors, and cabinet members. Those folks are then sent to approval to the Senate. The president can grant pardons to people convicted of a federal crime, basically anybody who has done something across state lines or something that impacts the nation as a whole. The president does have the power to pardon them. They usually don't do that often. They usually wait until kind of the end of their term to set some pardons. Back to the nominating political officials. So you got your judges. Ambassadors are people like to other countries. So we have an ambassador to Japan. We have an ambassador to Germany, any kind of foreign country. Those are all going to be approved by Congress, particularly our Senate. The judicial branch. So you've got kind of a hierarchy. The Supreme Court is our highest court of the land. They're followed by the appellate courts. They're followed by the district courts. Anything to get to the Supreme Court has to go through the district courts and the appellate courts, unless it's kind of a really big time case, then the Supreme Court might hear it. They can choose to hear it. They can choose not to hear it. It is entirely 100% up to them, the cases that they hear. Anybody who is appointed by the president and approved by the Senate is going to serve a life. All right, not 4-year term, not a 6-year term. They're going to serve for as long as they want under 2 conditions. See if I can get there. 2 conditions. Number one, they have to be having good behavior. No crimes committed, no treason, no nothing against the country. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to be doing a good job, but they can do it for life. And number two, within good health. Sometimes people can be removed from office or impeached because they don't believe physically that they can do the job. What does the judicial branch do? Okay, so the judicial branch, the Supreme Court decides if a law is unconstitutional. One trick, but a really big trick. So if they say yes, a law is constitutional, that means that law is okay to do. If they say no, that means you cannot do that law if they find it unconstitutional. If they do this, that law is probably going to stay that way for about 100 years or more. So that's going to stick there for a long time. The Supreme Court is also going to be the court that settles issues between the states. Remember, we didn't have this during the Articles of Confederation, and the federal courts are going to try people for committing national or going against national laws or committing national crimes. All right, that's our flip lesson for tonight. Hopefully that we got all the information there and you answered the questions to the best of your ability. Hopefully we're getting 5 out of 5. If you have any questions, hit me up on Schoology or send me a message. All right, out.